All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a great long weekend and you didn't have, too much on your plate yesterday. Let me let these last couple people that are trying to join in before I start sharing. So for this week, we got a little bit of a shortened week. You don't want to see my email. The first thing that you got, or the only thing you have this week, is right here, 4.3, multiplying and dividing rational expressions. You'll notice that it says continued because, again, what we did last week, we're doing the same thing this week, just kind of re-emphasizing things, specifically doing a little bit more like simple problems. I don't know why. I mean, this is the first year we've talked about this. This is the first year we've used this book. I'm a huge proponent of teaching the concept with like very simple problems, right? Like let's start off with very basic problems, small numbers, things that factor easily. That way we can learn the concept. And then we'll throw in some hard stuff along the way, right? Maybe at the end of the worksheet or at the, maybe during the review or something like that. But man, this book really started off with some difficult questions, like right off the bat. So I was a little uncomfortable with that. So I'm glad that this week ended up being a shorter week because I just created this worksheet. Don't forget the key is in here as well. So make sure if you're doing this worksheet, you're referencing that key. But the worksheet just has like some nicer problems, some lower numbers. So it's not as, it's not as crazy. There's no decimals or fractions or, well, you know what I mean? The whole thing is a fraction, but nothing crazy as far as, what they're trying to present to you. So hopefully the worksheet is making a little more sense. Again, kind of like I talked about at the end of last week, if you didn't watch last week's video, if you didn't go through last week's material in the book, however you usually learn the material, make sure you still do that because in this video, let me go back. In this video for this review, for this video tutorial, for the worksheet, I'm still going through everything. I'm still emphasizing things. I'm still, giving you little tricks or whatever along the way. But I really, in the books lesson, the last week, I went in super detail about how this whole thing is working, what's happening here. So again, if you need some more instruction, I think oh man, I can't remember if part 1 got split up, if this is the instructional material and then this is the practice problems, or if it was the other way around. I think this is the instructional material. I think something happened and I paused it. So if you need to get some instruction on this stuff, if you didn't watch these videos or you're trying to do this stuff, this week's stuff, go back and you can view those video tutorials and that should help you out. All right. So for this week, all you have is that worksheet. In my video, I go through, I don't know, I think it was like 4, maybe 5 or 6 problems. I can't remember. And for you, just to kind of emphasize what we're doing this week. And then you're going to complete that worksheet, take a picture of it and upload it. So I've heard a lot of people are doing that for other classes, uploading pictures. I've heard it's not a huge, crazy process, but you should be able to do that. Upload the picture into Canvas. Next week's stuff is also unlocked, 4.4. So we spent the last 2 weeks on multiplying and dividing. So next week, we're moving into adding and subtracting. Multiplying and dividing is a little bit easier because you can multiply and divide any fractions. Like there's no real rule or exception or anything you have to do to manipulate the expression first. If you want to multiply fractions, it's multiply the top, multiply the bottom. You don't worry about anything. You just multiply everything, right? With next week, adding and subtracting, it's a little bit of a different story. I kind of talk about that at the beginning of my video tutorial. This is very similar. It's pretty much the same steps as if you're adding basic fractions, like 2/3 plus, I don't know, 6/3 or whatever. If you have common denominators, you can just add the numerators. But the problem comes into when you have 2 fractions like 1/7 plus, 2/3. Well, they have different denominators, so it's not as easy, as just adding everything up. So you have to do some stuff. And that's what I talk about in these video tutorials. So like always, interactive textbook, this tells you where to go, or it's got a link to the interactive textbook or what pages we're on. The practice problems, I just want to keep stressing, make sure you're doing these. I had 2 people reach out to me yesterday from geometry, not from Algebra 2, but they're not doing these practice problems. They were testing last week. So they were trying to get the retest done and they didn't know how to do something. And when I asked them, well, are you doing the practice problems? Are you working through these? Are you making sure, you know, the answers are correct? You're using the solutions manual? And they're like, no, I'm not. I can't stress it enough. You probably won't understand this material unless you actually practice it. So make sure you're doing that. Extra practice. If you want some extra practice with one of the concepts that's taught in the lesson or all of them, you can look at that section and see where you can access some extra problems. The 2 assignments for next week unlocked as well, the vocab and concepts and the check-in. Just keep in mind with this vocab and concepts, the thing that I can tell you that'll help you out the most is just have your book out. All of those questions are coming straight from your book. So have your book out, read through the book, you know, be looking for that information, you know, that's in the vocab and concepts. And then the check-in, of course, the solutions manual here, I always recommend you have that open while you're doing the practice problems. And then my video tutorial, if you need it, feel free to open that up, watch the whole thing, watch a piece of it. If you just want to watch the practice problems being worked out, you can watch the video tutorial part 2. It's really up to you. So, all right, so I'm going to let these few people in. And I got one more announcement. If there's any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. Type something in the chat box. I'm not seeing anything there yet. The last thing that I wanted to tell you guys was for your period last week, specifically your period, so everybody in this class, 14 out of 28 people turned in their assignment. So that's half. Half the people are turning in their assignment. This is just last week, right? Other weeks could be different, but from what I observed, I haven't pulled any data from other weeks. From what I've observed, it's about 1/3 to 1/2 of the class are doing their assignments every week. That's not to say that they won't go in and do it late, but at the same time, math is one of those things you have to stay on top of. So once that expectation changed back in December, where people were allowed to turn in late work for full credit, it really went downhill. It went from 3/4 of the class turning in assignments to 1/2 to 1/3 of them. So I just want to encourage people, stay on top of this stuff. It's a lot easier to stay on top of it. And then when the test comes, you feel better prepped than to just kind of ignore it, do it at the last minute, get some credit, but then bomb the test, right? So I'm not hearing any questions. I don't see anything in the chat box. So I'm going to hang back and talk with people, work through problems, whatever you need, hang back with me. If you're good to go ahead and spend the next 40 minutes or so on math. I hope you have an awesome weekend and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye, everybody. Hey, Annalena, I know I just let you in, but I was just going to let you know that I'll upload this video into Canvas in probably like 5 minutes or so. It just depends on if people have questions and things like that. But as soon as class wraps up, I'll upload this so you can see what you missed and what we talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. Do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay. Bye. Have a good weekend. Zach, Samantha, Trenton, questions?